there, and welcome over here. Today I'm going to be showing you my all-time favorite side dishes. It's really exciting because Thanksgiving's sneaking up on us and then Christmas is right around the corner this year. So I'm going to be showing you my favorite side dishes. One big huge bonus points plus for all these side dishes is they could easily be doubled and then they could easily be halved. So if you're either eating with a small group of people this year or a large group, you could easily double these recipes or half them. But I hope you guys all enjoy these side dishes, and if you are new here, I'd love to have you. So go ahead and subscribe down below the video, but let's get to cooking. To get us started off, we're going to be making the sweet potato casserole. And even if you don't like sweet potatoes, I think you might like this because I personally don't care for sweet potatoes, but I absolutely love this. So anyways, you're going to want to cook up 5 sweet potatoes any way you like. I just cooked mine up in the Instant Pot. Then you're going to bring them over to this large bowl and remove the skin. Next, I just added in a 1/2 cup of sugar along with my 1/2 cup of softened butter that I cubed, 2 eggs, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and you're just going to mix all of this together. Now that we have this thoroughly mixed together, we're going to begin on the topping. So the topping is just 3/4 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/3 cup of butter, and 3/4 cup of some chopped pecans. Of course, you could add more chopped pecans if you love pecans. Anyways, you're just going to mix all of this together until it's pretty well combined. Now over to my greased casserole dish, I'm just going to be adding our sweet potato mixture in there, and I'm going to spread it out to the best of my ability. And then right on top of that, I'm sure you could guess it, we're going to be adding our pecan sugary mixture that we made up. And then you're just going to be placing this in the oven to bake on 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. Here it is out of the oven. This comes out great every single time, and I feel like this recipe is pretty fail-proof. It's a great recipe, especially for beginners in the kitchen, but this recipe is just so good, we can't get enough of it in our home. You definitely want some homemade dinner rolls around Thanksgiving time, but you don't want to be working too hard in the kitchen, so this is actually the perfect dinner roll recipe in my opinion. Anyways, to begin, in this glass bowl, I added 1 cup of water along with 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and I just mixed this to combine. And then from there, you're going to be just adding a 1/2 cup of milk in with 2 tablespoons of honey. And you're going to stick this in the microwave for about a minute to warm up. You want the temperature of this to be between about 95 degrees and 115 degrees. You don't want it to be above 120 degrees or it's going to kill the yeast. Now we have our mixture out of the microwave and it's at a great temperature. I'm just going to be pouring it into my electric mixer. If you don't have an electric mixer, of course, you could just use a large bowl. And then I added 1 tablespoon of some yeast, and I let this sit for about 5 minutes to activate the yeast. And now that our yeast is activated, I just added in about 3 cups of all-purpose flour and a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to mix this together. You'll see I'm going to be adding in a little bit more flour just so it gets all stuck together. You don't want the dough too runny. You kind of want it to be a ball, and that's how you know it's complete. I added up in about 3.5 to 4 cups of flour all together. You also don't really want to add in more than 4 cups of flour. This recipe also doesn't need more than 4 cups of flour. But now that it is a ball, I just put a damp paper towel over this, and I'm going to go let it rise for about 15 minutes. Here we are about 15 minutes later and our dough has doubled in size, so woohoo! Anyways, I just punched it down, and now over to my 9x13 baking dish. I'm just spraying it with some nonstick spray. We're going to be rolling our dough into 15 equal size balls. Of course, my balls are not perfect because I am not perfect in the kitchen, but you just want to roll them out to the best of your ability and try to make them pretty equal in size. Anyways, once I was through with that, I put another damp towel over my rolls and I let them rise for an additional 15 minutes. Here are the rolls after rising. These are going to go into a preheated oven to 400 degrees for about 15 minutes or until they're nice and golden on top. Here they are out of the oven for me. I just brushed some butter on top and these came out so good. I just really love this recipe because these are homemade rolls, but you don't have to let them rise all day. You don't really have to baby them too much. They're just really simple to make, but your guests are gonna love them. Now we're making some homemade stuffing, and of course you could buy stuffing in the box at the grocery store and it's still going to be good, but homemade stuffing is kicked up so many more notches. It is truly just really good. So to begin, you're going to want 2 pounds of hearty French bread. I used this type of French bread and it came out really amazing. So you're just going to want to cube it into smaller cubes just like this. Here are the breadcrumbs all cubed up. I'm just going to distribute them as even as possible on these 2 cooking trays. Then I'm going to stick it in the oven on 250 degrees for about 40 minutes. And I did stir all of these breadcrumbs around and flip them every 15 minutes for that 40-minute duration. Now that that's baking in the oven, we're going to begin to chop up our veggies. So I'm just chopping up 1 brown onion, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 celery sticks, and 1/3 cup of parsley into small pieces. Over to my Dutch oven, or you could use a saucepan, whatever works best for you. I just added in my 1/2 cup of butter, let that melt down and get hot, and then I added in our onion and celery, and you're just going to cook this until those veggies are soft. Now that our veggies are soft, I'm just adding in our garlic that we chopped into smaller pieces, and I'm going to stir this around for an additional 20 seconds, and there you go, your veggies are complete. At this point, you're going to be wanting to make your mixture. So the mixture is just 3 eggs beaten together, and then once you've beaten them or whisked them, whatever you want to call it, you're going to be adding in your 2.5 cups of chicken broth and then a little bit of some salt and pepper, and then once again you're going to whisk it, and that is it for this mixture. It couldn't get any simpler. Over to a large bowl, I added our breadcrumbs once they were completely cooled, and then I added our fresh parsley along with a teaspoon of thyme and a teaspoon of rosemary. I couldn't find fresh rosemary or thyme at my store. They were all sold out. But if you do find some fresh rosemary, fresh thyme, fresh sage, that would be delicious in this recipe. But just remember, the dried stuff is just as good in my opinion. Anyways, now I'm just adding our veggie mixture that we made up on the stove. And then from there, you're going to be adding the egg and the broth mixture, and you're going to mix this all together to combine. You want to make sure each of the little breadcrumbs gets coated in all of the liquid. You don't want any dry breadcrumbs. If you do have some dry breadcrumbs, go ahead and add an extra 1/2 cup of chicken broth in there. I just plopped this in a greased 9x13 baking dish, and this is going to go in the oven on 375 degrees for 30 minutes, and then I removed the foil and cooked this in the oven for an additional 17 minutes. Here is my stuffing out of the oven. If you are looking for a homemade stuffing recipe this year, this one might actually be the one for you, just because it has so much flavor and it's just really good. It's time to make some scalloped potatoes. These are my favorite scalloped potatoes of all time. So to begin, you're going to want to peel and chop up your potatoes into 1/8-inch pieces. I used 6 potatoes, and I actually only ended up using about 5 potatoes for the recipe. So peel and chop up your 5 potatoes and set them to the side. To my saucepan over medium heat, I added in our 6 tablespoons of butter and I let that melt down. From there, I added in our 6 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and I just whisked this all together until it was pretty smooth. For our milk, I'm just slowly adding in our 2 cups of regular milk, and I'm whisking it. You don't want to add it in all at one time or the flour might become clumpy. And then the next milk you're going to use is a cup of some heavy whipping cream. That's going to really make this nice and creamy. I also added in our heavy whipping cream a little bit at a time while whisking it. Once that's all whisked together, you're going to be adding in your 2 cloves of minced garlic along with your 1.5 teaspoons of dried onion flakes and a little bit of some salt and pepper just to your taste. You're going to whisk this all together, and once it's all whisked together, you're going to be adding in your 1.5 cups of some sharp cheddar cheese. And once again, you're going to whisk it together, and once this is all melted, it is all complete. Over to my 8x8 baking dish, I'm just spraying it with a little bit of some nonstick spray. I added a layer of our russet potatoes that I diced up, and then a layer of our creamy mixture we just made, and then once again another layer of our russet potatoes, and then the last layer is our creamy mixture, and then on top of that, you're going to be adding an additional cup of some sharp cheddar cheese. This is going to go into a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes, covered with some aluminum foil. Then you're going to take the foil off and cook it for an additional 20 to 30 minutes uncovered. Here are my potatoes out of the oven. I just put some fresh cracked pepper on top and some parsley. These are so amazing. I love how rich these potatoes taste, and they're just a really great side dish. Now we're going to be making a classic. We're just making some green bean casserole, and this one really couldn't get any easier. So to this bowl, I'm just adding 2 cans of drained green beans. These are about 14 ounces each, and 1 10-ounce can of cream of mushroom soup. I was definitely laughing while making this because my family makes fun of green bean casserole every single year, just because it's one of those weird things that's just a holiday tradition for a lot of people. It's really good too. So I also added 1 1/3 cup of French fried onions, a 1/2 cup of milk, and 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, and you're going to mix this all together. You could also use Worcestershire sauce instead of soy sauce if that's what you prefer, or coconut aminos. Any of those would be delicious in this recipe. I placed this in my greased casserole dish and then spread it out, put a little bit of some black pepper right on top, and then this goes into a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. Here we are about 25 minutes later. You're going to be putting another cup of these French's onions on top. You're going to spread them out, and then this is going to go in the oven for an additional 8 to 10 minutes. Then this is complete. Here it is out of the oven. Like I said before, this is just really easy to make, and it's just a tradition for so many people on Thanksgiving to make a green bean casserole. This one is particularly easy to make. Now we're making some slow cooker sweet baby carrots. This recipe is really, really good if you just want to throw something in your slow cooker for a few hours and forget about it. Anyways, to the bottom of my crock pot, I added 1/4 cup of water, and then I added 2 pounds of baby carrots that I rinsed. Right on top of that, I added 1/4 cup of brown sugar and then 3 tablespoons of honey. You're also going to be adding a little bit of some salt and then 1/4 cup of butter sliced into cubes. The very last thing you're going to do is put the lid on this crock pot and cook this on high for about 3 to 5 hours. Everybody's crock pot cooks differently, so just cook them till they're fork tender. I also did stir these a few times while cooking, but here they are, all cooked through. These came out really super good. And that is a wrap of this video today. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. But for Friday's video this week, I'm going to be showing you what to do with your Thanksgiving turkey leftovers. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss Friday's video. And I will see you there. Bye for now.